Hello and welcome to another edition of Osceola Chat. My name is Pat Burnham, and I'm joined today by the owner of the Osceola, Jerry Cutts, and the managing editor of the Osceola, Bob Ferrante, and our special guest is FSU defensive back coach Marcus Woodson. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to meet with us today, and just want to kind of give our subscribers a little, learn a little bit more about you. And obviously, we're all going through a very different time than we ever expected. And kind of our first question is, what are you and your family doing during this quarantine isolation period, and what's been the upside for you as a husband?
Well, the biggest upside for me is the fact that my family was still here in Auburn while I took the job in Tallahassee. So we've been away from each other for 2 straight months. So it was somewhat a personal perfect timing for me to get stuck in the house with my family to just make up the time that we've been apart and still be able to get efficient work done from home as well. That's the biggest part of my day is being here on Zoom, being efficient with recruiting or staff meetings, if you will. And then, once we do get done with that, just being able to be here to put my kids to bed, to have some time with them, to be a husband and father. And, that's an important element to me. Family is important to me. So this is a time well spent. It's going really good for us as of right now, but it's a marathon. Right now it's a sprint up until this point. We still got a long way to go just based on where we're going. So I'm excited about it.
Well, Coach, obviously you guys had some bad weather yesterday. Did y'all fare all right through that?
Yeah, we were fortunate here in Auburn where we live to avoid most of it. It was some high winds and rain that came through, so we were able to stay away from the worst part of it.
Yeah, I knew Eufaula got hit pretty hard, and y'all are not too far from there. So just wanted to make sure we made sure everything was all right there. Obviously, we do want to talk a little bit of football with you, Coach, and kind of want to talk to you about who were your influences on you as a coach, what got you into coaching, and who influenced your coaching style.
Yeah, great question. I have two mentors, if you will, that I hang a lot on when it comes to me needing personal advice. Number one would be David Cutcliffe. He was the head coach at Ole Miss when I played there. He's the one that encouraged me to get in coaching. And he was always somewhat of a father figure to me as a player and still is to this day. So he's a big influence on my life. And the next one would be Mike Dubose. He was the head coach at Millsaps when I got my first coaching opportunity. And I was with him for 4 years. And he was the one that really helped me transition from being a player to being a coach. And he invested a lot into me, just teaching me the ins and outs of the profession and everything that goes with it. And, when I became a coach, it was totally unexpected. I experienced multiple injuries as a player at Ole Miss that brought my playing days to an end. And I remember like it was yesterday, the night before I accepted the job at Millsaps, I sat there and it dawned on me the influence that coaches had on my life throughout the years in order for me to be the Marcus Woodson who I am today. And I wanted to be that for the generations to come. So as I sat and I thought about the opportunity when it unexpectedly came to be a part of the staff at Millsaps and to get into coaching, that's when I had that epiphany and knew right then and there that I wanted to be an influence on the generations to come. And I feel personally it's not a better profession to do it in than coaching. And for me, it's more about, I knew my first day on the job that this is what my passion was. It didn't take long. It allowed for me to stay close to the game that I love. And then it also allowed for me to be more of a mentor in life and a coach when it comes to football to my players. And, I've been coaching, this will be 16 years coming up this year, if I got that right. Yeah, 16. And I've yet to work a day in my life. And that's why I'm so fortunate at Florida State, just to be around people that got a genuine care for each player off the field, and just in life, like we do as a staff, man. So, it's not about the opportunity you have as much as it is the people that you do it with. And, man, I'm very fortunate at this stage in my career to be around a great group of men, and not only men, but women as well, that really got a genuine care for the players at Florida State.
Well, Coach, you guys as a staff had 12 tour duty workouts with your players, and of course, you got 3 days worth of spring practice before the NCAA came in and canceled it. What were some of the things that stood out about your position group to you, and what are some of the things that excite you about getting back on the field with those guys?
Yeah, well, the most encouraging part is the progress that we made from a mental toughness standpoint from the first tour of duty into that last spring practice. Just us as a staff, we put a premium on coaching body language and response when good things happen and when bad things happen. And I thought just as a whole for the secondary, so that was really encouraging. And the personnel, I feel like we got some really talented individuals that was truly great. So it's just the mindset, the mentality, the growth that we made in a short period of time from a mental toughness standpoint, and just the overall mindset. So it's been really encouraging, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for us in the secondary.
Now, you came to Memphis to work for Coach Norville from Fresno State. Can you tell us how that came to be? If you were out on the West Coast, was there a previous connection to Coach Norville?
You know what? It wasn't. And that is a unique connection, the way we got connected, if you will. So my wife and I, to start off, we're originally from Mississippi. So going to California with a newborn kid really took a major sacrifice. So I was at Fresno State for 2 years, my family and I. And when Coach Norville got the job at Memphis, he and I had a mutual friend by the name of Walker Jones. And Walker was someone that played at Ole Miss before I did. And I just so happened to wear the same jersey number as Walker Jones, which created a friendship amongst us. And I hadn't spoke to Walker, I know, in at least 5 years, whenever he did end up reaching out to me, letting me know that he recommended me to Coach Norville. So that experience really showed me how valuable it is to keep a good name and to, make people know, or let people know rather, that you value their friendship. So my point is, it was a mutual friend connection that was totally unexpected. I had no connections to the staff at Memphis other than the fact that I had worked with David Johnson, Coach Yak, who was on the staff as well. But that isn't what got the ball rolling for the opportunity to present itself. It was strictly from a coincidental contact between Walker Jones and Coach Norville. And my name somehow came up within a conversation that led to me getting the opportunity. So it was a great opportunity. It was great timing for my family and I to get closer to home. And it was a great experience at Memphis.
Well, Coach, obviously this is a different time for you guys as coaches with your players not being on campus, and obviously they have the opportunity to call in and talk with you on the phone and Zoom meetings and things of that nature. But what are some of your concerns about the health and well-being of your players, and what are two or three things that you're emphasizing to them when you speak with them?
Well, number one is just making sure the message is learn how to become a pro before you become a pro. And pretty much what that says is, let's make sure we do a good job of taking care of our responsibility day in and day out, more so now than ever, with everyone being in different locations. So just making sure that, number one, I'm checking in on how them and their families are doing throughout this time, and making sure that I inform them on ways to stay safe and to just stay out of harm's way when it comes to the virus. The next thing is making sure that they stay on top of academics, just communicating with your academic advisor day in and day out, and just getting ahead with your schoolwork to make sure that we're staying on top of the academic side of it. And for each kid that calls and wants to talk football with me for their personal development, I make sure that I allot time to be able to do that with them as well. Each one of them can call me and ask questions anytime that they would like, and they know that I'm available 24/7 right now. even with me being here with my family as far as my current players. So just their overall well-being, to stay out of harm's way from a virus standpoint and to be protected with that. And then to just make sure that they're staying on top of the academic work, and we can really gain a true advantage right now if we're doing the things consistently that we need to do where we're at. So that's the main thing for the players right now. And I tell you what, we're fortunate to have kids that really care. So far, so great in that area. But again, it's going to be a marathon with this. So making sure that they understand that this is going to become more of a lifestyle than not, here moving forward.
Coach, in talking to your kids the way that you are now through Zoom and with the adversity that there is in our country and in their lives,
Yes, sir.
Has the level of conversation become more intimate than maybe it might otherwise be? I mean, is this an advantage in a way to getting to know your kids better?
Well, yes and no. The negative to Zoom is you don't have that true human touch as you would if we were in the office every day, where they come in and actually sit down and have that interaction from a human touch in-person standpoint. But the one thing that I think is going to be the biggest benefit throughout this is them understanding the only thing we can do is control what we can control. And, obviously we can't control the circumstances we're dealing with right now. So we got to be great at the things we can control. So that's why for me, I try to use this adversity as a teachable moment about life. None of us can control the weather. None of us can control this virus right now as far as what it's doing to impact the world. So the only thing we can do is control the preventative measures that we take to avoid it. Okay. So again, this is so relative specifically for us as a secondary, because throughout the course of the season, or throughout the course of a game, rather, bad things are going to happen, so again, the response is the most important, and just using that aspect to make sure that they grow and understand. And it's not just impacting us. It's not just impacting the state of Florida or the United States. It's impacting the world, so everyone walking is impacted by what we're dealing with right now. And I just try to, again, put a focus on them with control what we can control, and let's be great at the things we can control.
Coach, the other aspect of your job is recruiting. And I know you're in a dead period, but you can have some contact with prospects. And what's that like? How does that work?
It's been really good for us. And really nothing has changed from that aspect other than the unofficial visits on campus as of right now. And, obviously us not being able to get out with spring recruiting, looking ahead to get some evaluations that is much needed. But the not in-person contact hasn't changed, so what it has done now is allowed for more eye-to-eye interaction via Zoom or FaceTime, if you will, because the kids are not having to go to school or anything like that. So what I'm doing is just utilizing this time to deepen our relationships, not only with the kids, but I'm also using this time to get to know their village better and for their village to get to know me better. So that's the part to me that I've used as an area to really gain an advantage, is to really spend more time, not only on the prospect, but on those loved ones that surround him that's going to be influential with their decisions.
Now, Coach, would that be, obviously those parents in the home, but would it also be high school coaches that you're getting to spend time with? Or
yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the coaches in my area, as far as building relationships with them, as far as the specific prospects, it's an individual basis if the high school coach is going to be a part of that decision-making process. So that is individual based per prospect as far as the people that matters the most in their lives. When it comes to the high school coaches, the main thing for me is just reaching out, having daily communication with the coaches in my area more so than impacting a specific recruit, if you will. So that's all individual basis.
Coach, I noticed that on the third day of practice or last day of spring practice, you had a follower in your group, and it was Coach Mickey Andrews. What was that like, and has he been a valuable resource for you since you've been here? Have you had a chance to sit down and talk with him?
A valuable resource for me. And, that is someone that I've always idolized from a coaching profession standpoint from afar. And, he and I has had the opportunity to really, develop a relationship since being here. And I still joke with him every day, Coach, why you never came to recruit me to allow me to achieve my dream and play at Florida State? But we joke about that every day. But it was really good, and he was there. And the main thing I wanted him to do was critique me, as a coach, with his knowledge, with his experience, and the guys that he developed. The resume speaks for itself, And what I allowed for him to do was talk to the guys after practice and give his input on what he saw that day. And it's amazing, man, just the wisdom and the knowledge that comes out of his mouth every time that he speaks. And I'm very fortunate to have him to be a part of this journey with me.
Well, you mentioned that Florida State obviously was one of your favorite schools growing up, and we just talked to Coach Atkins, and he had mentioned Coach Bowden, and Coach Bowden had come in and spent some time with the staff during spring ball. What was that like for you?
Wow, that was a very surreal moment for me as well. Again, that's the guy that I always dreamed of playing for. When I was a kid, I knew Bobby Bowden. I didn't know Mickey Andrews. So for me to have the opportunity to finally meet him in person and shake his hand and to hear him talk to the staff with the knowledge and wisdom that came out, I mean, that was a true honor for me. And again, a dream come true somewhat, if you will, because that's someone I always dreamed of playing for. So, Coach Bowden, obviously one of the greatest of all time to ever coach college football. Anytime you're in his presence, just be quiet and listen, and you can get better. And I did in that short period of time when he came and addressed the staff.
Now, Coach, growing up an FSU fan, who was your favorite FSU football player?
I actually had two.
Okay.
One was Deion Sanders, obviously, and then Terrell Buckley. I grew up in Moss Point, Mississippi, which is the rivalry school of Pascagoula, where he played at. He's older than me, so when I was a kid, I went to a lot of his games and got a chance to watch him play. And, so those are the two Florida State alums that I always had a lot of respect for and tried to imitate my game around those two.
Now, have you had a chance? Now you're competing against T-Buck now on the recruiting trail. Have you guys crossed paths or had a chance to talk at all?
Yeah, and it's amazing, how life, comes around full circle. T-Buck and I, once I got into coaching, probably about my fifth year, we developed a relationship coaching-wise, and I finally got to know him personally. And, it's interesting. He texted me the day that I got the job. He's now currently coaching defensive backs at my alma mater, and I'm coaching defensive backs at his alma mater. So it's amazing the fact that I looked up to him or respected him a lot as a player. And when he was here at Florida State, and now being able to coach the DBs here and he's coaching at Ole Miss is really unique as far as he and I's experience coming up. But it was hard for me to say Terrell Buckley. I had to be truthful. And the reason being is because we do compete for certain recruits when it comes to that. So I was a little hesitant on mentioning Terrell Buckley, but I had to be truthful with my response to the question as well.
We appreciate it. Well, Coach, we do want to talk. Does anybody have any football-related questions, or y'all want to move to the
I've got one.
stuff? Okay.
You got the tour duty and then the 3 days on the grass with players. Did you have enough time to kind of get an idea of what you got for the fall?
Yeah, I did. And you know what? More so in those three practices of spring than I did of tour of duty. And I was more encouraged walking off the field after spring practice three than I was before we started. And I'm super excited about the mindset of the defensive backs, about the skill set and what I've seen within those 3 days. I think we got a chance to do something special this upcoming year.
How excited will you to be get Hamza healthy?
Oh, I can't wait, man. Ham and Woodby both. Those two, you know, obviously they weren't able to go full speed in those three practices or doing tour of duty. But they've done, again, when it comes to controlling the things that they can control, they've been pros in those areas. Really engaged, taking on a leadership role, even though are not able to participate. And I couldn't be more excited for Ham and Woodby both to get back and be on the grass with us.
Well, I know Florida State fans concur with that. That's for sure. Going off the field, if Marcus Woodson was not a football coach, what would he be doing today?
A football coach.
There was never an option.
No, it wasn't an option. Now, let me rewind and go back. I can say this. At the moment when I graduated from Ole Miss and I knew NFL was not in my future, there was a point when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I majored in criminal justice. And within the time of me getting the unexpected opportunity to coach, I was actually applying to be a highway patrolman uniquely. It was a guy that I knew that I had a connection with that can get me the opportunity to do it. And within the application process is when I ended up getting the opportunity to coach at Millsaps. And again, the day that I got on the job, I knew that if I wasn't a football coach, I couldn't be anything other than a football coach, you know? So after that, man, again, I'm a firm believer that I'd rather be happy making less than miserable making more. Because if I told you my salary I made at Millsaps throughout those 4 years, you would be like, how did you make that work? It was pretty much making no pennies. But again, man, coaching is a passion. And again, you know, I've been doing this for 16 years. I've yet to work a day in my life.
All right. Your three favorite musicians or bands?
Wow, that's a good question. Really good question. Now, I'm younger, if you will, by age, but I got an old soul because I grew up around, you know, my uncles and they were a lot older. So I would say my first one would be Frankie Beverly and Maze. You know, that was my dad's favorite group growing up, and I could sit there and sing every song they got word for word. The next one would be the Gap Band. You know, I was a big Gap Band fan. Those two were bands that I grew up around a lot, hearing a lot. And then let me see, the third one would be uh, probably let me see, Ti. Yeah, he's a hip hop artist from out of Atlanta. And you know, I'm still an old school guy when it comes to that. I don't quite understand some of the things that these new school hip hop artists be singing. Yeah.
Well, Coach, if you had three people outside of your family you could go through this quarantine with, who would they be? Could be anybody in history of the world.
Wow. uh, Number one would be Barack Obama. I definitely would want to spend some time with him just to kind of, you know, learn and grow from him based on the respect I have for him. The next one would be LeBron James. You know, I got a lot of respect for him as far as how he approached just his personal life. He's a great example from being a great husband, great father standpoint. And then the third one would be um, probably David Cutcliffe, just to continue to grow as a coach throughout this time so I can get better. We talk to our players a lot about getting better. So me as a coach, I always keep, the mindset of getting better so I can be a better coach for my players. And by spending time with him, I know for a fact I will grow in that area.
Well, when you retire from coaching, if we interviewed your former players, what would you think they would say and what would you want them to say about you?
That I was always a great example, that when it comes to showing them what a great husband looked like, a great father looked like, they'll be able to say that. And, with the players, they want to know how much you care before they care how much you know. And so with that I got a genuine interest in them just becoming better individuals. And, being able to do everything in my power to help them achieve their dreams and goals. Hopefully they could see that in me every day, that it's a passion for me to help them be successful in life.
Coach, I've got a question for you about scholarships. The power of a scholarship to change lives. I don't know about your background, but you and probably a lot of your teammates that you grew up with and kids you've coached, that opportunity to go to college, get a college education, get exposed to some of the things that kids get exposed to while they're in college. How important is that?
Yeah, I think it's critical. And, for most kids, not all, but for most of them, that is a life-changing opportunity. To know that you're going off to school to get your schooling paid for, you avoid any student loan debt, which I think is a big booster coming out of college if you don't make it to the NFL. So it was life-changing for me for sure. And that's why my main goal is to make sure that my players leave Florida State with a degree before anything else. Just to maximize the opportunity to be successful and be in a position where they could provide for their families. The majority won't make it to the NFL, but all of them can be successful in life. So just have an opportunity to come to college and not have to pay a dime. Matter of fact, to get paid to play from the aspect of cost of living with the scholarship checks that go with it. So I think it's a life-changing opportunity. And that's why for me, every day, I make sure that my kids understand to be the best version of themselves. So they maximize in every day within a short window of college. That's the thing I think that's really important as well to get across to players, is them understanding that time is not on their side throughout college. So when you come in as a freshman, it's a short window to when you're going to be walking out the door. So let's just make sure we're getting 1% better every day, being the best versions of ourselves so we can maximize the opportunity that we have.
Coach, if you're talking to a group of FSU fans on this video, a lot of people will be watching this, what would you say to those fans?
First off, it's a privilege for me to be the defensive back coach at Florida State, okay? And it's an honor as well. This is a tradition-rich defensive back school historically. And it's a huge responsibility that I have. And I just want them to know that each and every day, put my best foot forward and be the best version of Marcus Woodson to make Florida State better. It starts with each individual player first, and then us collectively as a group second, which will therefore make the team better. And obviously, if we're a team that's winning, that makes Florida State better. So this is a high percentage winning program. And I just look forward to doing my part to the best of my ability to pour my all into making Florida State better.
Coach, thank you. We appreciate your time today. Know you got a full slate ahead of you.
Thank you for allowing the opportunity. I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you guys individually and personally. And just know, man, there's nothing too small or big to ever approach Coach Woodson about. So I'm excited about the opportunity. Thank you guys, and go Noles.
Thanks, Coach.